Hello there, I'm Libralita, and welcome to the very first installment of Libralita Logic. This will be a series where I analyze the Cosmere. Today, we're speculating on the Cosmere space age. Spoilers ahead. The most important scene in The Sunlit Man is when Sigil is questioned by the Time Tellers. It is seemingly innocuous, but Brandon Sanderson implies so much about the future of the Cosmere. Now, you're probably thinking, really? This scene? Not even when Sigil makes the choice to help the Beaconites? Libra, check your Scadrian bias. While yes, I am rooting for Scadrians to gaslight Gatekeep Girlboss their way to interplanetary dominance, this scene is jam-packed, with hints as to what the landscape for the space age will look like. Alright, first let's break down what happens in the most important scene of the book. Sigil is confronted by a man and a woman with small metal ornaments on the sides of their faces. These ornaments were triangular with red enamel, meaning that the metal ornaments are opaque, glassy substance. They are Scadrians, so this is likely some kind of metal mind. The book explains that they are the Time Tellers, which is one of Scadrial's political movements to, in their words, understand the various mysteries of the Cosmere. The text snarkily quips that they're meant to be neutral. However, from Sigil's perspective, they are an arm of the Scadrial military to secretly develop tech that would allow the planet to stay ahead in the increasingly dangerous arms race. Male Scadrian asks in his own language if they can speak in a more civilized language like Malwish. Sigil pretends that he can't. The Scadrian continues to speak the local language. The first question the Scadrians ask is if Sigil has sworn his oaths. Sigil lies and says he is a free man and he has no part in these conflicts. The scientist immediately follows up by asking if he can fight. Sigil retorts that he has a capital B blade. The two scientists share an undefined look, but continue with their questioning. They ask about how he got to the planet. He explains that he came through Shademere through a temporary perpendicularity. The scientists agree that something strange is happening on Canticle, but they'll be leaving soon. The Scadrians explain that travel is dangerous these days, and they could use someone who can fight. The male scientist asserts that Sigil has done mercenary work since he has a capital B blade. The scene continues, however, the rest is not important for this particular topic. So, let us move along to the analysis. Yeah, I know. Libra, how riveting. Listen, there's so much time left in this video, just hear me out, okay? We can infer that Scadrial is currently ahead in the arms race. However, they need to fight for their dominance amongst the other developed planets. We know from Tress and Yumi that planets like Lumar, Kamashi, and Canticle are considered backwater planets of little importance to the wider Cosmere political conflicts. So, a developed planet would include planets like Scadrial, obviously, Roshar, Nothus, Cell, and probably Taldane. This is my own personal theory, but I think that Brandon is already starting to draw the alliances between the major Cosmere planets. It is not too much of a stretch to assume that Scadrial and Roshar are likely the major powers in these conflicts. Scadrial because we'll be exploring the space age in the 5th era of Mistborn. As for Roshar, in this book, the Rosharans are known to be warlike, extremely aggressive, and dangerous. But Sigil clarifies that is just a generalization. And this is correct. It is a generalization of Rosharans. Even if we hadn't already had nearly 5 books to tell us that not all Rosharans fit this description, the fact that they do have this generalization is very telling. This is subtle foreshadowing that Brandon is going to set up that other people from the Cosmere are going to see Rosharans as aggressors. The generalization is likely going to be linked to events that happen in Stormlight Archive. In Rhythm of War, it's revealed that Odium's plan involved creating an army out of the people of Roshar. Now, of course, Rayze is no longer Odium, but that leaves Taravangian. At the end of Rhythm of War, the new Odium looks out into the Cosmere and thinks about Rayze's plans to, assumedly, conquer the Cosmere. He discovers the universe in all its chaos, ruled by fools, presided over by broken gods. And now, Taravangian is no longer held back by his frailty. Taravangian was going to save them all. Ooh, how pleasant. Back to the topic at hand, of alliances. I think it's fairly safe to assume that Roshar and Scadrial will be going at it. I think Brandon's already hinting at how the Cosmere will be divided. First, I think Scadrial will form an alliance with Cell. In The Lost Metal, Kelsier suggests to Harmony that they form alliances with other planets, and he mentions Cell amongst them, given that 2 of his members of this stupid secret organization are from the planet. We know that Brandon is planning on writing the 3rd Mistborn era alongside the 2 Elantris sequels. Last we heard, the Elantris sequels would feature Kaisei as one of the protagonists and will deal with autonomy, trying to to go for Cell? Seriously, Bobaden, can you come up with nothing original? Anyways, I think it's likely that we will be seeing Cell and Scadrial form some kind of alliance. At the very least, they are going to have some interaction in this next era. As for Roshar, I mean, there's a bunch of Nalthus characters running around, so why not? Though the Sunlit Man does say that most of the developed planets are consumed by the arms race, so it's possible that any of the planets are staying neutral. Maybe Nalthus? Maybe Bobaden got bored of destroying other planets and Taldane's out of it. Moving on to the meat of the conversation that Sigil has with the Scadrians. The Scadrians ask Sigil if he speaks a more civilized language. I think it's not only implying that these Scadrians see the language of Canticle as a lesser language, but also implying that Rosharan languages aren't as civilized as Malwish. As I've been saying, this dialogue exchange is seemingly simple. However, there's so much information you can take from this scene. When listening to this analysis, remember, Sigil is lying to the Scadrians and playing off their assumptions of him. The first inquiry is about whether Sigil has said his Radiant oaths. That question alone has some interesting implications. We know in the period that the Stormlight archive takes place, the Radiants can absolutely lie about whether they are Radiants or not, which begs the question of what was the answer the researchers were expecting to get. Were they expecting him to right out say that he's sworn his oaths, or do they think he's lying? Later in the book, when Sigil is caught by one of the Scadrians speaking to Auxiliary, she looks at him suspiciously and says, "I thought you said you were unoathed. Do you have a spren?" So, this could imply that generally Rosharans are upfront about whether they have sworn their oaths, but can still lie. The next line is overtly hinting at something. Sigil claims that he has not sworn the oaths, therefore he is a free man and has no part in the conflicts. He's playing with the Scadrian's assumption about who he is, but why phrase it as a free man? Are the space-age Radiants used as a massive military machine for whatever these conflicts are? Also, he's saying conflicts, plural. Is this a reference to the Radiants fighting on multiple fronts? The Scadrians then ask if Sigil can fight, and he admits that he has a capital B blade. To summarize the information that the Scadrians are working with, this Rosharan has not sworn oaths, meaning that he is not bonded a spren, so no auxiliary blade, like we see in Stormlight Archive with Syl, spears, and pattern blades. When they ask him if he can fight, he says he has a capital B blade. What do they think he means by that? Obviously, they don't know about the actual truth of what is going on with Sigil. When he says he has a capital B blade, does he mean a Deadeye shard blade, imply that the Deadeyes are still around in the space age, and prominent enough that the Scadrian scientists would know about them? And not even just know about them, but unoathed shardbearers are known to be mercenaries. So, unoathed Rosharans with capital B blades are known to be mercenaries. Now, another thing the capital B blade could be referring to, any invested sword. So, both Spren shard blades and something like Nightblood would be considered capital B blades. Though, to be honest, I personally think it's more likely that capital B blades in this context is referring to a Deadeye shard blade. But what's the cherry on top of this conversation? Is that the Scadrians just, move on? They believe them? The fact they are willing to believe him has its own implications. To put this in perspective, let's replace Scadrial and Roshar with real-world countries. Let's say that a North Korean soldier walks up to a South Korean research facility that may or may not be trying to win an arms race. Do you think the South Korean scientists are going to just believe literally anything this North Korean soldier says? No, but that begs the question. The Scadrians and Rosharans don't appear to have a relationship as hostile as this comparison, then what is their relationship? On a meta level, it makes narrative sense to have the two major planets, Roshar and Scadrial, in some sort of conflict. It's sad for the readers because we're in love with both worlds and the people from them, but it's also fun to pick sides. # Team Scadrial. I don't think there's anything too terribly interesting about Sigil's lie on how he got to the planet. The only thing of note is that the Scadrian woman says that there are strange events on Canticle. Finally, the Scadrians offer Sigil a job because travel is dangerous these days. This is just hammering in the point that things are not all good in the Cosmere at this point, and I already exhausted the implications of the mercenary line. That's my analysis of about a page and a half of content. If you couldn't tell, I'm bit passionate about the Cosmere. To summarize, I think you can draw so many interesting implications of this scene. Brandon Sanderson is very intentional about what he writes. He includes so much foreshadowing into his novels. I'm very excited for the Space Age, though it's a bit sad how long we'll be waiting for Era 5. And yes, it is now Mistborn Era 5. Brandon has confirmed that there will be a cyberpunk era. So Mistborn will have all 16 books. I do enjoy these fun side adventures like Yumi and Trest and the Sunlit Man, and visiting these backwater planets, but I'm really interested in the mainline events. Before I go, I just wanted to give a shout out to my friend Sam for helping me with this video and my previous video. Starting next week, I will be doing weekly videos going over the preview chapters for Wind and Truth. Sam will be joining me to look at the prologue and maybe the other chapters depending on how things go. But that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and remember, there's always another secret.